So here's what I think. Just been thinking over the last few days about why many businesses have challenges, and trying to look at different stories, what people are doing out there. And most of the time, people are always, from all stories I see, people are always painting the rosy side of things. We don't focus on the failures, the challenges, and whatever that really affect businesses or people in whatever they do. So I had a chat with a friend of mine who is operating a certain factory in industrial area, and I just thought maybe if I could chat to him and just talk about many things that businesses go through day to day that we don't see, and also see what he's doing as well. Because what I feel also when you visit such places, it's also important to educate the consumer in terms of buying decisions. And this particular person, for example, is making tents. So I'm really excited actually to go and meet him. So hey, let's go and see what he's doing. Mr. Asim.
Hi Alfred, how are you doing?
Long time, bro. How are things?
Yeah, good.
Such a long time, man.
Yeah, it's always
Fine.
months before.
Yeah, man, I think this is my second time to be here, or third time, I think, to be here, man. So really a good time to chat and see what we can talk about, man, because I always love to chat, man. That's the most important thing. Huh?
I think the first time you came here was 10 years ago.
Yeah, so I was chatting to your dad, which is quite interesting, that telling me that I couldn't remember that I was in Alcatel, by the way. so then I think that time we were quite interested about solar, and your dad and you had gone to China.
Yes,
yeah. So it's cool. By the way, TARPO, what does TARPO mean, man? This guy works for TARPO, by the way. So I wanted to know exactly where the name TARPO came from.
So it's TARPO is short for tarpaulin.
Yes.
So when they first started the business, they were just making tarpaulins.
So TARPO is like tarpaulin is a material, or what is it?
It's actually a finished product.
Yeah.
It's used for sun protection, rain protection, maize drying. So it's just a generic term for a sheet of fabric that's used for various things.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of it was the first generation of materials that came in terms of making different products before other ones came in, or what?
The tarpaulin just evolved into then becoming, an awning and a tent and a canopy. But if you think back to years and years ago when you needed a shelter, you just tie something up and sit under it. So you tie up a tarp and sit under it.
By the point of disclaimer, man, we studied with Asim in university. So this guy was, I don't want to say my mentor, but one of the guys we used to look up to when we used to be in school. The guy was serious with books and bags, and I think we used to play a lot and play football a lot, man. He used to do manufacturing engineering.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And I was doing electronics engineering. So I thought, man, it's good to catch up and just talk. Business. The reality of business is interesting, because most of the time you see that people paint business from rosy side of things, success, majority of the times, but really in reality there's so much to talk about, and this is actually what this channel is about, really just showing the reality of things, being able to give people the real dose of business in this town. And not necessarily business, even in life, if you're going to the market and all these places, you just gain experience from talking to people. And that's why we're here to have a chat with Asim. And later, of course, is the subject matter in tents and everything. So stick around, which is very important. You'll show us basically, I want to build my car shed for a car.
Yeah.
So we'll just do a very practical example, so we can really educate people around the world the process of actually choosing the right material, price versus longevity, and all these things and all these fundamentals.
Absolutely.
Good stuff, man. So it's good to catch up. By the way, which high school were you in?
I was at Hillcrest.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a lot of our friends from uni.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I haven't been back to the school for years and years.
And how did you decide that you're going to do manufacturing engineering?
I think a lot of it is an influence from, you know, coming here, visiting
Yeah.
my dad whenever we were on school holidays. And
Oh, you used to come here quite a lot?
yeah, I'd come here, but then I'd be sitting in the office coloring papers and random stuff, right?
Yeah,
Not being anything useful.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, just a fascination with robotics and production processes and product design. And then very interestingly, I did a vocational guidance test when I was at school, trying to figure out what do I want to study.
You weren't sure?
I wasn't sure.
Well, just like any other person, right? You know, like for me, even me, I wasn't sure exactly which degree I want to do.
So, but okay, the vocational test was a help because it kind of narrows down all these things.
Yeah.
But then it still gives you a long list, you know, like product design, architecture, psychology. I was like, huh, what? And then the great thing about Warwick was that you could pick general engineering, and then you decide what stream you wanted to go down later on. I think electronics was maybe a bit different, but so I got into the general stream, and then I was deciding between mechanical, civil, and manufacturing.
And just from when you were young, exactly, were you sort of in your back of your mind saying that you're going to come back and work in family business?
No. The idea was never to come back.
The idea was just work there. And,
yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a real battle to decide that actually I'm going to come back and I'm going to join the business.
Was it a battle from a family perspective? Your dad saying, man, or your mom or whatever it is saying, you need to come back?
It was a battle with the expectation, unsaid expectations that you're not coming back. You know, figure out your life over there. And I was like, no, but I want to come back and I want to make a difference.
Yeah. What was the decision point between you deciding to come back and coming back to Kenya and staying there? Because I remember during that time, I think there was also a bad economic situation. I think a financial crisis thereabout, or did it affect you?
It happened just after I came back.
Yeah, that was in 2008, I think.
2007, 8,
Yeah.
No, the decision, I felt like I wasn't going to get an opportunity to practice what I had learned.
Correct.
So I really wanted to apply all that stuff and really prove that all that theory that we were learning was applicable. And I was looking at all the graduate recruitment stuff in the UK. I was like, where am I going to end up? You know, it's going to be 3 years before I actually get to apply all the stuff that I've learned. You know, quality control and stuff like that. So.
So I really want to take it from that aspect of transitioning, because we have a lot of students who always are planning to come back.
Yeah.
And they're not sure, especially when you've done your complex degree and you want to come back. Take me through that decision point you were thinking at that time.
I think I was, the first thing was I hated the weather.
Yes.
And I just wanted to come back to something warmer.
Yeah.
Something that made more sense with my body.
Yeah.
The second thing was, I think the freedom to express what I had learned and what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
As opposed to being stuck in a structure. So that was one thing. It was very much about knowing who I am before deciding, okay, this is what I want to do, as opposed to following other people's advice.
Yeah. So now, because we want to talk about reality because of actually now starting in TARPO, because I'm assuming now you're coming into an environment where you're sort of people already running the show, and this happens a lot, and I've felt it also, where people already set up in their structures. This is how we run the business, and as Asim must be coming up with new ideas or
That's the expectation, right?
or I don't want to say like a revolutionary guy, to overhaul everything.
Yeah.
Huh?
It is one of those situations, though. You want to come in, so you've left the expectation of staying in the UK.
Yeah.
So you're coming back, and you've got to justify why you're coming back.
Mm.
So you want to make an impact, whatever it is. And of course, the expectation, you're joining a business, the expectation is that you make a financial impact.
Yeah.
At least the fundamental idea is that you're making an impact on the financials.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course I came in with some great new ideas that I wanted to roll out.
Yes.
And then and then the reality hits you. You need capital to do something.
Absolutely.
Where am I going to get that capital? Look in the business.
Yeah.
And like, how do I extract the cash that I need to do these new ideas? And then I just realized that, okay, to get the capital for the new ideas, I need to generate it either by increasing sales, creating efficiency. So we got savings, and then the more you get involved in this stuff, the more you realize that for every problem that you solve, there's another 2 problems that come.
I know. And we're going to go to those problems because I want to understand, I think the biggest challenge with family businesses is managing expectations, conflicts, and also coming to an agreement. Was it something that you really faced a lot? Maybe even perhaps considered quitting? I'm giving an example. Or maybe you quit. I don't know.
I did quit.
You did quit, yeah?
I did quit.
Okay.
A couple of times. Yeah. Because
what pushed you, to be honest?
Because my reasoning for doing certain things had logic.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand the other side of it.
Yeah.
And it's not, sometimes all parties want exactly the same outcome.
Yeah.
But the methods are different. And the methods will have a long-term impact. And if you plan to be there in the long term, then you want to be doing something that's going to make it easy for you in 5 years' time or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it was more about the method than it was about the actual outcome.
And how did you, I'm not saying you found solutions, but trying to come to a compromise. So was there someone had to back down or at some point?
Yeah, there's a lot of give and take that goes on.
Yeah.
More often than not, I was backing down.
Yeah.
Because what I started getting worried about was how it was impacting the staff.
Yeah.
Because then you get mixed loyalties and stuff like that going on. So you've got to be careful about legacy issues versus
how you approach it.
Yeah.
I want to move on because another point that I want to understand is you're running this business and currently, in essence, and you actually, Asim wears a lot of hats. For you that don't know, this guy, I don't know, I think probably 10, 15 hats, man. If I'm not wrong, because I know the big thing that he does, for example, is Rhino Charge. So he's in the organizing committee. So I just want to ask, and many other things, from GMC, for those guys who know GMC, you can Google GMC, to you did psychometric things as well.
Yeah,
I remember that as well.
Assessments, yeah.
So do you burn out, by the way? Because it's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
things,
it's so critical, and it doesn't matter what age you're at, but becoming aware of who you are, and being really understanding of what your routines and patterns are, so that when something changes, you pick up and you're like, okay, I know that this is not what I normally do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that to identify burnout is to be aware of what your normal patterns are and what's changing. That's in your sleeping habits, your eating habits, how you talk to people, who you're talking to. All of that comes into a picture.
So I want to move on to, I think it's something very important that we need to discuss, like also trying to understand the difficult things that you face, the reality in business. As I said, man, we always see the rosy side of things, but we never talk about the thorns. So Asim, I just want you to point out, like, maybe 5 or whatever the amount you tell me, like, critical things that you face from a day-to-day in any order. It doesn't matter, man. Like, because for me, I want to be honest that at the end of the day, I want someone to understand, whoever is going into any business, these are things that you have to deal with. Let no one give you mathematics that you start a business and month one you make this and blah, 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 and give you mathematics. So I want to start a chicken business and this is what will happen. In 30 days, you will sell your chicken and hey, and here are the numbers and you'll pocket the rest. So Asim, paint for us the reality, to be honest.
People management.
People management.
That is the single most difficult thing that I have faced in my career.
When you say people management, like just dealing with people from a day-to-day perspective.
Yeah, you're dealing with 30, 40 people.
Yeah.
Every day, everyone's got a unique personality. Everyone's got a unique job. Everyone came from a different house.
Yeah.
So you think or hope.
Yeah.
So everyone's got their own problems and they're bringing everything to work, and you kind of become the point person who's got to kind of understand who's okay, who's not. How do you deal with the ones who are not okay? And those issues manifest into something. It could be source of stress from whatever it is, and it comes into the business. And it's, if you or I are ultimately responsible for the business's performance, then you've got to make sure that the people are able to align behind you, and then they bring their best selves. And for them to bring their best selves, you've got to help them find themselves.
Yeah.
So I find people management is
so basically, I mean, you just have to know how to manage people. That's number one.
You know how to manage people, how to talk to them. Some people work best with incentive, and some people work best with, the carrot and stick thing.
I know.
So you have to figure out who operates best, in what form. Generational issues are huge. The millennial, Gen Z, Y.
Yeah.
That's something that if you Google me, you'll find me talking about it.
What about? Because I talk to a lot of people, and I think the biggest thing that people tell me is cash flow management. Is it a headache to you as well?
Yeah, that was my second one.
Okay.
People management. Yeah. It's not about profit. It's about having cash, because the number of uncertainties that we're dealing with as well.
Yeah.
You can't plan for something to turn up suddenly. Like a couple of weeks ago, we had one of our vehicles was involved in an accident. There's a whole process behind, getting vehicle off the scene, driver to hospital.
Yeah.
The insurance,
correct,
the valuation, and there's just cash going out, and you just need to have that cash available. So where do you store it? How do you account for it?
Yeah.
All these little things come into the picture, and it gets complicated.
And do you face a situation, because you're in the factory business, collection of money? Is it a headache?
Yeah.
Payment issues?
Payment issues is a huge issue. Yeah.
Like, literally, I talk to every business person, and especially I'm in Kenya right now, but the critical thing that we face a lot here is payment issues. And most people say you give people service or whatever the case, and they end up not paying, or many challenges. I have been in the situations where I'm in between a supplier and the client.
Yeah.
The client has not paid me, so I cannot pay the supplier. Supplier thinks I'm bad, right? So right now, from an environment perspective, you're operating more of a cash perspective, basically prepaid.
Yeah, we some years ago we changed our model in such a way that we were prioritizing cash customers over credit customers.
Right.
Because the cash customer, if they trust you, they will pay for whatever it is they want.
Yeah.
Someone who's asking for credit without credibility is in this day and age, honestly has no credibility.
What about going to the banks as well? Like, is it a no-go these days as well? For what's the situation in terms of are businesses afraid of collecting? I mean, say borrowing. Is it a dangerous thing?
Okay, so if we bring in the pandemic, then yes, because nobody knows whether the pandemic is going to finish next month or next year.
Yeah.
So banks, well, people are not willing to take the risks. Banks, by extension, are then not willing to take the risk. So access to credit is an issue. I think the banking industry generally has to look at itself and say, okay, there's 40 plus banks in the country, and they need to look at how much they're taking out of the system, as opposed to how much they can inject into the system and flip it around. So I think banks need to rethink their model, and then maybe we'll think about going to the banks.
Finally, I think the last point, I don't know if you can concur with me, how do you balance family and work? Because especially when you're doing your private business, I don't know much, but when you're doing your private business, do you face that there is no work and home? Sometimes it's transition. Do you face that?
Yeah. And when I first joined the business, there was a lot of, every conversation at home was about business.
Yeah. You can move this way.
This way.
I'll just continue, man. So I can start from that point.
When I get home, every conversation is about business.
Yeah.
So, without any experience, then it's difficult to kind of set boundaries around, okay, this conversation should not happen at this hour or in this place. Over time, you learn about it because you start learning about who you are and what affects you and when and how. But yeah, definitely, it's very, very difficult to split.
And how do you draw? It's a difficult question, but how do you draw the line? Because I face the same battles as well.
Yeah.
I get home and open my laptop and like, you're working again, and like, okay, I just need to send one more email or send something.
I think everyone's got to compromise or understand, why is this happening at this hour as opposed to in the office or whatever. Those battles will always be there, but then it's about focusing on what you want. So if you know that sending this email at this hour is important, at some point you look at yourself and you're like, okay, am I the priority or is everyone else the priority?
Yeah, I think and that's a very difficult topic to balance personally. I mean, it's a big battle myself I've been facing as well, where really I know you have family and then you have work. It's also your personal business that has no weekends or weekdays as well. Sometimes you get client calls or whatever the case. Is it you take the call or you don't take the call? Or sometimes your dad wants to speak about business at 10 p.m. at night. Will you take the call or don't take the call? I don't know. It's that kind of a battle that is there every day. And so I think it's just generally it in terms of I see. Do you see any other challenges you face as well?
I think for me, a critical one that I keep thinking about almost every couple of days is succession planning.
Succession planning. Wow.
And that comes back into the people management thing.
Because
as a business, you're trying to maintain your intellectual property. So you're trying to retain the right people. You're trying to transfer the knowledge. At the same time, you've got new materials, new techniques, new stuff coming in. So that succession planning, while you get the expertise coming in. Because as you know, as a business evolves and you get a reputation for a certain kind of approach to how you do problem solving. Then suddenly your methodology is the one that everyone wants, and then you've got to have the right people and the people who believe in that. So there's a lot of that's a challenge.
I think you've mentioned something very important that actually affects a lot of African businesses, or majority of the business actually around the world, is succession planning. And I see it a lot in different places, especially here. I want to say that, you can correct me, but a lot of Asians have a better succession planning. I've seen it, you can correct me, compared to, I've seen it like, for example, with Africans or other people, because I've seen some businesses where, for example, you're a consultant or you own a shop, and what I have seen is as soon as the founder dies, the business dies. But is it true, and you can correct me, with a lot of Asian businesses I've seen that, for example, it's just a basic shop or a shop that is selling, wholesale shop or whatever the case. The father runs the business and educates the children. They could go to study outside the country or study here, whatever the case, be a doctor or whatever. Eventually they end up coming to the business to be the cashier first, and then rise up slowly around the ranks and go up. Is it something that actually fails a lot in Kenya as well, right? What's your opinion on that?
I think like if we look at Kenya specifically, then yes, there's the statistic of Asian-owned businesses with a good succession in place is the ratio is obviously more success than failure compared to African-owned. But I think that's a generational thing as well. Asian businesses, it's like, for example, okay, not in Tarpo's case, but a lot of businesses, the grandparents are the ones who founded it, so their children took over, and now it's the third generation that's coming in. Whereas if you look at a lot of the African-owned businesses, it's very much about the transition between first and second generation. So the foundations and the reasons why these businesses were built were completely different, and they were done at different times. If you look at African-owned businesses from those years of the 60s and 70s, when the Asian ones were founded as well, it's almost the same. The success rate is good.
Correct.
If you look at businesses started maybe in the early 90s or late 80s, then you start seeing that there's some gaps there, and I don't know why. But it's one of those where the really old businesses have very good foundation. Then slightly newer businesses, or slightly, let me say, the 20 to 30-year-old businesses are struggling. And I think it comes back to business is about longevity, whatever
that English
word is. And as we've moved on from the 70s, 80s, 90s, we've come into the instant gratification scenarios.
Very true.
And so how many of families, children are interested in coming to join the business? Do they have the patience to understand the technicalities behind it? And I compare this to German businesses a lot, because in Germany they value the apprenticeship model over the degree model. So Germans will have more pride in working in a factory than they will about getting a university degree. And that's because they're building up the technical expertise. So that's, I believe that's one of the problems. We're not building up technical expertise within the ownership to then take over. And that could be a curiosity thing. But there's problems. There's problems.
I think. So I mean, there's so many things that we can cover, man, and I think we can talk the whole day, to be honest, about these different challenges. And for me, it's just highlighting things and what people can take away from this. Whether you said it's about succession planning or people management, so just things that people need to think about. We don't need to mention many of these things. At least people need to think about when they are joining. And the more we have conversations with other people, you will be able to see different things that people see from a perspective. As I was giving an example about running a chicken business or talking to a fruits farmer or whatever the case, there's so many things that we can learn from each other so as to understand the pitfalls and the challenges that we face as well. Hey, Asim, I told you I've always been wanting a car shed in my office. Right? So I just want you to, as we go into the factory, is one, just take me through the different things that I need to consider. So, I mean, even if I go to Kamau Tent Factory or whatever the place. These are things I need to be asking about.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So at least I have that information.
Yeah.
So I think the best way to do it, man, is just be practical and go into the factory.
Yeah, let's do
Perfect.
that.
Let's go, man. So I mean, I think it's the best time to come to the factory because it's lunchtime and stuff like this. So it's a good time to just get an understanding of many things and hopefully not disturb the environment. So the first thing you're telling me is actually choice of fabric. I didn't know, man. There's so many types of fabrics that exist.
Yeah, so we get a lot of people who come and say that they've done their frame.
Yeah.
They now just want the fabric.
Correct.
But our approach is actually the other way around. We design the structure based on the material, because sometimes you can pick a material that is actually stronger than steel.
Oh wow, the material is actually stronger than steel.
Yeah.
The fabric itself.
The fabric itself.
Wow. Okay.
So we've got into textiles that have become super engineered.
Yeah.
And we have some of them in the country.
Yeah.
And we work with them. And so, one of the important things for us is to educate our customers and say that fabrics are no longer what they used to be 10, 20 years ago. Things have really evolved. So the design process has now changed from the steel is more critical than the fabric. Actually, the fabric is now more critical.
Which is always the reverse. We know we focus more on the structure rather than the fabric.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you come to us, my question to you first of all is: you want a car shade? You want to protect your car?
Correct.
Are you protecting it from rain or sun, or both?
I think generally in Kenya, when we have rain and so man, I want the whole range.
You
to be
want
honest.
the whole,
Yeah.
So if you tell me that you want something not necessarily waterproof, but you want it to be sun protection, then we've got non-waterproof items. And what happens is that the material options are lighter weight.
Okay.
Which means that your entire project can be of lighter weight, so the frame can be lighter, which means in most cases that the cost comes down.
Correct.
If you want it waterproof, then it means that you've got to design the structure in a way that the water is not going to sit on the structure. And different fabrics, different waterproof fabrics will sit on the structure in a different way.
Yeah, because I think generally when I walk around, I see a lot people doing different things. You tend to see exactly what you're saying is that someone has already designed a structure or just went to a Jokali or whatever the place or a steel manufacturer, did the structure itself, and then now, they come to you and say, just choose the fabric.
Yeah, exactly.
So generally sometimes they say, most of the times I see just choose the fabric and which color. Actually, they come to you and say, which color of fabric do you want?
Yeah.
So
it's a given that the fabric is only this one option.
Yeah, I didn't know. Now you're telling me. So what categories of fabrics are there, to be honest?
So we start at non-waterproof and waterproof.
Yeah.
So like in my hand, I've got now 2 non-waterproof options.
Yeah.
So there's a netting, which is made from high-density polyester, and I've got another netting. This is made from high-density PVC.
Yeah.
So both plastics.
Yeah.
Different processes of making this. The polyester is a woven fabric or a knitted fabric, depending on where it comes from.
Yeah.
This is an extruded plastic. So this PVC is similar to the one that, the reusable water bottles that you get.
Correct.
It's similar to that. Both are non-waterproof.
Yeah.
The joining of this is also different. So the process of joining, process of installation are different.
And they are lightweight, so basically steel structure will be light.
Yeah.
Hence cost as well.
And it's cost, and also because you're not worried about water collecting on the top, because if you can see it's perforated, so the water will just seep through. So you don't need to consider having a slope or a curvature on the frame. You can put in the curvature or the slope just for the aesthetic. But if you want it a flat roof, you can get a flat roof with non-waterproof material.
So now we have this category.
Yeah.
Then which other category now do we have?
So then you've got waterproof.
So now we move to waterproof.
So now we move to waterproof. So you get a netting that has a waterproof layer, which allows sunlight through.
Okay.
So now so this is rain protection with an amount of sun protection.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we've got PVC, which is actually the tarpaulin fabric,
Yes.
similar to the ones that are used on trucks. There are specific materials used specifically for car shades,
Okay.
PVC,
Yeah.
and then I've got a canvas here, which has so it's a canvas with a coating on it.
This is the ones that you see on the tents
In the Mara and stuff
Russia
like
and the
that.
Mara?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it can also be used for car shades as well.
It can be. It's not ideal. The structure is more, let me call it more intense, because you need more structural members for the canvas. The plastics, or the PVC rather, will be less steel, and then the netting is even less steel.
Okay.
So you've got all waterproof options, but all require a different structural design.
So Asim, I wanted to ask you, I mean, like now you have told me about these fabrics, and I mean, here's the question, obviously. Cost and longevity, if that is the word, or whatever that word is.
Yeah.
So how do you balance, or like, can you tell someone, okay, you can pay this, have a duration for, the fabrics have durations of life. Can you just tell me?
Yeah. So different fabrics under different conditions have a different duration.
Right.
So what happens is that we have specific materials that are designed for the climate that we are in here.
Or in Kenya?
Yeah. So if
All
we
right.
borrow a material that's designed for the winter,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. If we get something
I think that's a very important point, because you just go to the shop, you don't even know where they've got the material from.
yeah.
It could be a material from Europe or China or Dubai, but it's not designed for the tropical climate.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you could get something that's designed to handle the pollution in, let's say, China or India.
Yeah.
And then it starts becoming a different color when you install it here, because it's not designed for the different kind of pollution that we have here.
Yeah.
You've also got, when you look at pricing, then you've got to look at what are you compromising. So if you want it cheaper,
Yeah.
like we were talking about,
Yeah.
the non-waterproof
Yeah.
will be cheaper,
Yeah.
but then you're losing the opportunity to protect your vehicle from water.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So thanks. So, but here's the question though, like, so if I'm trying to balance, so if you're to advise me, so for example, Alfred, this material, if you take this material, yes, you're going to pay slightly more.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm taking now the one for the rain and sun, pay slightly more, but at least I give you a guarantee of 10 years. Because most of the time we don't do what you call total cost of ownership.
yes,
So in that we buy, ideally what I mean by total cost of ownership is like you buy something today, tomorrow after 1 year you have to remove it and put another one.
Yep.
Okay. So eventually if you calculate the cost that you've spent over 10 years, probably sometimes is worth what you would have bought more expensive and had one fabric stay with you for forever.
Yeah.
So from a total cost of ownership, as in like, what do you normally advise people? Like when, for example, advise me now, for example, what fabric would I go with now? Just say, from a simple perspective.
So it's interesting because you've got on both the non-waterproof and the waterproof options, you've got some fabrics that have a guarantee that they will last, they will not change shape, they will not fade.
Correct.
For a minimum number of years. And then you've got the ones that don't have a guarantee, and obviously then they are cheaper.
Right.
And the guarantee comes from the supplier, the manufacturer of the fabric.
Correct.
Because some of the
Which you
stuff,
pass on to the customer anyway.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So some of the stuff we use comes from Australia.
Yeah.
The part of it is manufactured in Australia, part of it is maybe in the Middle East or China.
Correct.
So it's got different components, and you've got different components with different warranties and guarantees.
Right.
So when we're talking about total cost of ownership, one of the questions I would ask a customer is, how long do you want this to last? Or when will you be replacing it?
Correct.
Are you happy with replacing it every 3 months or every year? Or do you want it to last you 5 years? And then ideally we should do that calculation saying, if you replace it every year, then it's going to cost you this much. Whereas when you put it in this material and it's, one time, you're not going to think about it for 5 years.
I think also what is critical, which I had forgotten to mention, is ideally please do your steel structure from a professional perspective, either with drawings or whatever it is, because sometimes someone just does something without necessarily taking in the weight or whatever it is, and sooner or later, one day, that thing could collapse or structural failure, and that is a big problem. It could collapse on your car. So please, it's something that you need to watch out. That's why it's always good you work with someone like Asim, for example, where they work with you right from the fabric, therefore, which enables you to choose the type of steel structure, or at least gives you a design. If you don't want to do it with Asim in terms of steel structure, please go and do it with someone else to do the structure for you, and Asim will come and do the fabric for you and installation for the case. So, we're in a machine room, and I think I just wanted you to take us through why some of these machines, because one point that I wanted to mention, which has come into my head, is there's always this big debate where to get machine. I'm not here to say that Chinese machines are bad, but there's always this school of thoughts. You either go the Asian way or the European way. Asim, I'm sure you've had that debate internally. Can you just take us through? You can give us a good example, man, because there's so many machines here.
This is a European machine.
Yeah.
We've had it for just under 10 years.
What does it do?
It is a high-frequency welding machine.
Okay.
So the PVC materials that we make tarpaulins from, or even the car shades from,
right,
they are high-frequency welded in such a way that the base of that fabric is bonded molecularly.
Right.
So what you find...
It's a bit of chemistry.
Yeah, we're back to high school chemistry, actually. What's happening is that you need the right technology to make sure that the guarantee that the material is giving you is actually is availed without the process of joining interfering with it. So a lot of people use we call them hot iron wedge.
Correct. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. So what they're doing is they're melting the surface, so they're melting the plastic.
Yeah.
And then what's happening is, as the plastic is starting to solidify, they join it. So you're not getting a molecular bond of the base fabric. You're getting a surface to surface bond. Whereas when you do a high frequency weld, you get the molecular bond. So the base fabric fuses together.
Yeah. So what was the decision point? I'm sure you had a debate between cost, this must be expensive, and versus an Asian or Chinese or whatever machine. What was the decision point?
Ease of maintenance and spare parts.
Right.
And to an extent, so what's really interesting is some of the material suppliers work hand in hand with the machine manufacturers.
Yeah.
So this brand works with 3 out of the top 5 PVC suppliers in the world.
Correct.
And what they've done is they've got, for every material that comes out of that manufacturer, the welding company, the designers of this machine will get the variables to join that material.
It's basically like a script or a formula or
exactly.
something. Yeah.
So if I get this PVC,
yeah,
I will set this machine on whatever number of amps, frequency, voltage, whatever time, and then that is going to be the optimal bond.
So basically, in summary, is if you're buying a machine, and it's very important, if you're buying an equipment or whatever, please, I think it's very important to think about the total cost of ownership, because today you can you can buy a machine at a fraction of the cost, but this machine breaks down frequently.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times when was the first time this machine broke down when you bought it?
I think of almost 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
I've been to places where a machine is 3 months old just because, and it continuously breaks down. So imagine the cost of maintenance and actually the cost of downtime in your factory is a big headache because people can't calculate that. It's something that you lose a lot. You could have produced many products, you could have served many clients. So whenever you're buying actually a machine, and it's a good point that we've come here, I didn't even think about, we're going to talk about this, but it's very important to always think about the long term, especially from a factory perspective. I mean, we can talk forever, to be honest, about so many things, but what is very important, really, if you really want to understand more about tents or tarpaulin or this kind of things, whether you are doing your things in the in the Mara or game reserves, or you're doing car shades or whatever, I think Asim is one of the most open guys. You can just go to tarpo.com or find them on Facebook, TARPO, and then you could probably just give him a buzz or send him a message. It's always open to having a discussion, and I think you can always come to the right conclusion. Even if you don't buy from Asim, you will end up making the right decisions in terms of choosing the right product. And as I mentioned before, I think Asim has supplied a lot of restaurants here in towns who are doing many things, as well as game reserves, tents, and all these places. So I would think so. Even if you're out of Kenya, please feel free to message Asim. I think it's quite important. And by the way, this is not really a paid promotion. It's for me, having this tour factory is actually to take you through these decision-making points, as well as you to be able to make the right decisions when you're purchasing certain things. And we'll be doing this from different businesses or different people. We'll go to Mama Mboga, or a person who sells vegetables and whatever it is, and just, hey, take us through how to buy a pineapple, or take us through how to do this, because it's important. Many people don't have this information. So Asim, thanks, man. I mean, I really want to say thank you for the time. That's very important. I really appreciate, because you guys are a busy time. I know it's lunchtime. You sacrificed your lunch to have this conversation. And I hope we can do this another time, to be honest.
Absolutely. I mean, like I was saying earlier on, educating our customer is so critical to making sure that they are happy when they make a decision.
Yeah.
It's a service to our industry. There's not many of us in the industry.
Yeah.
And globally, there's not many of us who have the technical capabilities and the knowledge that we have. So, we're here to hopefully expand our industry and share our knowledge.
Yeah.
That's how we work.
So again, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we get another time producing a lot of content actually for you guys around this time. And it's all for the benefit of all of us, just to learn from each other and actually just share knowledge. So so till the next one, see you.